What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the ProCharge combination that we have in the GTO. I'm going to tell you guys some of the pros and cons from my point of view, and I'm also going to let you guys know if I regret my decision to go ProCharger. We'll probably also take this thing for a ride. So as always, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. Let's go ahead and get through the intro, back this thing out, and fire it up. So now that we've gotten the car rolled outside, I want to give a quick rundown for those of you that may not have seen this car before. If at any point you guys want to know more about a specific piece of this build, feel free to go back on the channel. The GTO has its own playlist from when we picked it up as a roller to where it sits now. So if you guys want to know anything in particular, feel free to go back and search on the GTO playlist. Most likely you will find it. So to start off here, we've got a pretty much stock bottom end LS2. It's got a Melling 10295 oil pump on it. It also has a BTR Stage 3 blower cam. We've got some American Racing headers on it, a trunnion kit, and a cheap fabricated eBay intake manifold, as well as the fuel rails. We are running ID 1050X injectors. We've got an Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator. I will tell you more on the fuel system here in a second. Then we've got a catch can setup that we made ourselves using a factory valve cover on each side. We use the oil fill, so that worked out super good as well. And then of course we've got the ProCharger. We are running a D1SC that is well beyond maxed out. We are spinning it well over the recommended RPM. We're running a 2.70 pulley on there, so we're spinning that thing pretty hard. As you can see, we have made most of our own intercooler piping. We are still running the smaller of the two intercoolers from ProCharger, but all of our piping from the blower to the intercooler and then back up into the throttle body is all 3-inch or bigger aluminum that we made ourselves. And then you can see where it goes into the throttle body here. We've got two nozzles. Those are for water methanol injection. We've got two nozzles here and then one under here that you can't see that goes in before the blower to help keep everything nice and cool. So that's pretty much what we've got going on up in the engine bay. Let's take a look at the trunk and I'll show you guys a few other things that we've got going on. So back here, as you can see, we've got our AEM methanol system. We've got the tank and the pump, and then you can see our fuel lines coming out. We've got a -8 feed and a -6 return, and those are being fed by our Walbro 525 liter per hour pump. We are going to be adding a Walbro 450 in there and run a Hob switch setup so that we can run comfortably on E85 and not have to worry about maxing it out. And then of course you can see we moved our battery to the trunk as well. So let's go ahead and take a look inside the car. Pretty basic going on in here. We did add an LED, not sure if you guys can see it right there. When we put the AEM meth system in, I wanted some extra safety. So we've got a pressure switch up front, and this LED will turn on to make sure that we know if we are spraying methanol or not. Then you can see we've got a few AEM gauges up there, AFR, oil, and fuel. And then we've got our boost gauge over here, and then just a shift light. This car is a 6-speed manual. We are running a stock T56 transmission, but we do have a McLeod RXT 1200 clutch with an aluminum flywheel that goes to a drive shaft shop, one-piece aluminum drive shaft, to a stock differential with some G-force axles and a G-force diff brace. So that is pretty much the quick rundown of the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing cleaned up quick. We're gonna give it a quick bath. We're gonna try to bring it out to a car show this weekend. So I figure I might as well go ahead and get this thing cleaned up. Then we'll get it warmed up and take it out for a ride and go over a few things about this ProCharger. Alright guys, so it is the next day. I ended up getting a little bit carried away last night with the detailing, and it got dark on us. So we ended up clay barring this thing and then giving it a nice shine. It looks way better than it did. Super happy about that. But let's go ahead and get this thing fired up and take it out for a ride. Alright guys, so we just went ahead and got some gas. Gonna take this thing for a little ride. Now that's definitely one of the things that I like a lot about our particular combo, is that you can pretty much just hop in this thing and drive it anywhere you want, and it acts just like an NA car, pretty much to a T. It drives just like it's NA until you really get into the boost. Another really big bonus to going with the centrifugal supercharger, like you guys know, in our case we run a ProCharger, but any of the centrifugal superchargers are pretty much the same fundamentals. And one of the big benefits to them, in my opinion, is that if you're building your car a little bit at a time, or you get parts as you can, it's a perfect option, because you can pretty much set up a car as if it's NA and then go ahead and add the ProCharger last if you want. That's pretty much how our motor came about, and it works out really well doing it like that. And it's cool because if you have long tube headers, because everybody wants more power, so you usually buy long tube headers, one of the first things that you buy when you're working on something, and you can keep those for the ProCharger. Whereas to go turbo, you have to pretty much ditch all of your exhaust system and build your own hot side using turbo headers and whatnot. So it is a big ease factor to be able to use all of your NA parts when you go to the ProCharger. Drive this thing around town a little bit, see if we can't get out of some traffic here. Another thing with going the ProCharger route is the cars are definitely louder. It's the same way with a positive displacement blower, but they're basically a louder version of the NA car, where when you go turbo, it's definitely going to quiet it down a little bit. It takes a little bit of the edge off of how loud it is, which can be a pro or a con depending on how you look at it. Sometimes these things are too loud. Turbos definitely help quiet them down a little bit. cool thing about going with the ProCharger route is that you get most of the cool noises of a turbo, but you also get some of the cool noises of a blower. So you get a little bit of both worlds in that aspect. Now, some of the things that I don't necessarily like about going with the ProCharged or centrifugal blower route is that you don't have the option to just turn up the boost like you would with a turbo. With a turbo, you can have boost control, and you can have it set up so that you're running, let's say we're running around town on 5-8 pounds or something, 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds, and you bring it to the track or whatever the case may be, and you really want to get after it. Well, you can use your boost control and just turn the boost up, as simple as that. Whereas with our setup and other ProCharged or centrifugal supercharged setups, you can't necessarily just turn the boost up at the flip of a switch. You can run a wastegate type setup on a centrifugal supercharger, but most companies will tell you that it's not the best for the blower. Kind of just stuck at whatever boost level you have the car pulley for. I was trying to get you guys a better view of the boost gauge, but it just didn't work out with our camera setup, so I'll have to figure something out for next time on that. But the car runs really strong for the combo it is. Pretty much a stock bottom end LS, like I told you guys, and we've just got the little D1 SC on it right now. If we end up staying with the ProCharged route and want to go further with this car, we can always step up to an F-Series blower, probably like an F1A94. That would be our next step up, in my opinion. But that's another good thing with the ProCharger. Once you have your setup dialed in and once you have your combo laid out, if you want more power out of it, all you really need is another head unit, and it'll bolt right up where our D-Series blower is now. I believe the P1SC, the D1, and the F-Series all use the same bracketry, so you could just swap out head units and change the pulley to whatever you want to run, and be making a significant bit more power. Same thing can be said with turbos though. You can always put a bigger turbo on it if your car is going to be able to spool it. So the only downside to that is ProCharger and other centrifugal blower, the head unit itself is where most of the money for the kit is, so they can be rather pricey, which is kind of a downside to it. But you can always find a used blower on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, and as long as you check it out and everything's good with it, we'll treat you good for a long time. That's how we got ours. We got ours from a buddy, actually, but he had it on Facebook, and we pretty much just turned it up as far as you can with this thing and let it eat, and she's been great to us so far, knock on wood. Now you do have a pretty big difference between the way the boost is going to come in on this setup versus a positive displacement blower or a turbo setup. With a turbo, you can definitely ramp it in different forms using boost control and what have you. Whereas with a ProCharger, you're more or less going to be linear. So as RPM comes up, boost is going to come up. Which can be a good thing, especially for the street. It definitely helps traction, and it'll also help keep from breaking things, because the centrifugal blowers don't usually make a whole lot of torque. Whereas with a positive displacement blower, pretty much as soon as you flat foot it, it's going to make all the boost. And a turbo setup you can have set up in multiple different ways. So with the turbo, it's kind of up to you, and with the ProCharger, it kind of just naturally ramps in, unless you are using a boost controlled setup, like I had mentioned before. We'll go ahead and drive this thing around town a little bit more, and then we will head back to the house, and I will give you guys my final thoughts on the ProCharger and if I regret putting it on this combo. So we just got back from our ride in the GTO, and I always forget how much fun this thing is to drive around on the street. Between the ProCharger making all the right noises and it being a manual transmission, it's just an absolute blast to drive around and sounds super cool. I love this combo for what we use it for, but we would like to get an automatic in it in the future. You guys might be able to tell in the video there, I treat the transmission pretty softly. I try to shift it rather soft until we can at least get this thing to the track. I'm trying not to blow up the stock transmission, not quite yet anyways, but other than that, there was one thing that I did forget to mention. We were on our cruise, and that is belt slip. Now with the pro-charged or centrifugal blowers and the positive displacement blowers, when you start trying to make a good bit of power, belt slip can become an issue, and we've done a few things to try to combat that, like running a Gates green belt, and we also run the Grip Tech pulley, which also helps minimize belt slip. But sometimes there's just not a whole lot you can do about it. In our combo, I think we've got it minimized pretty well. I would like to try the Gates RPM belts that have recently came out, but they don't have one in the size that we need just yet. So we continue to run the Gates green belt, and it's treated us pretty well. But that would be one of the biggest downsides to a blower setup if you're trying to make a lot of power, is the battle of belt slip. And like I said, there are things you can do to try to minimize that, and it seems to be working for us. So in summary here, I'd have to say I don't regret going ProCharger at all. Turbos are awesome, and we will have a turbo car at some point, and I will build a designated turbo car just because they have their place as well. I think the blowers and the centrifugal blowers have a place alongside those. I think they make awesome street cars. They're a blast to drive. They make all the right noises, and they're pretty simple and easy to set up and install, and they just work. They're very reliable, just all around a very good combo, and they can make a lot of power in their own right, especially if you put it on something that can run like a crank drive or something. But I think they're an awesome option if you're trying to get into boost, especially on your street car that you bring to the track here and there, and even on a full track car. I think they do phenomenal. So as always, guys, I appreciate you for checking out the channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell so that you get notified anytime we put out a video with the GTO, the Duramax, or the Hellcat, and we will catch you on the next one.